All right, let's talk about free body diagrams for a little bit. And I'll tell you what you need to jot down or sketch. We're going to be doing a little bit of sketching in this video. Okay, let's start off with a definition right here. Free body diagram. Visual representation of force and object interactions. And we're going to get this whole thing down. Individual objects or members are isolated from their environment or system, illustrating all external forces acting upon them. Just like it says, while you're writing, I'll just talk at you for a second. We are isolating all the forces, including friction, including gravity, on an object. And we're going to be using this a lot when we get to our unit on bridges and trusses. And as usual, pause if you need to. I'm going to keep moving along. Let's refresh our memory on forces. Force is a straight line push or pull acting upon an object. And a vector quantity has direction and magnitude. That's really important. Let's get that down. Direction is illustrated by an arrowhead. Magnitude is illustrated by the length of the line segment. And make sure you put some of these examples in your notes as well. Okay, moment we're going to talk about a little later, and we're going to get right into it. And right here, basically what we're talking about, don't write anything, just listen for a minute. If we had the stack of books, we can represent the normal force, which is the reaction force pushing up on the book, like the normal force from the table, and the applied force, which would be this bottom arrow, the weight of the top of the book or books. That's basically what we're doing. But these get a little more interesting as you get into more complex situations or objects. In this case, this Project Lead the Way DE book, we have 5 pound force pushing up from the table and 5 pound force pushing down from the weight of the books. Let's get into a little more interesting example. In your notebook, let me make sure this is all pulled up correctly. Yep, there we go. I'd like you to do 2 sketches side by side. This doesn't have to be perfect, just little stick people is fine. Let's go ahead and start with the kids on the sled. So draw your little sled, 2 stick people, and let's talk about the forces that are occurring. First of all, we have the weight of the sled and the kids pushing down. We have a normal force, F sub n, which is the weight of the snow or the ground pushing back up on the sled. And then this is a frictional force. There's a little F hidden right here. Make sure you include that. F sub F, frictional force, pushing back, right? There's not much friction on the snow, but there's some. It wants to pull back. And then mom or dad is pulling the kids, and that is an applied force. You're basically going to duplicate that picture over here, except what we do now is we don't worry about that it's a sled or there's 1 kid or 2 kids. We just represent all of that with a little box, and that's what you're going to do with that gray box. While you're sketching, let me talk you through a couple things. You'll notice that the normal force is shorter than the weight, and if you look closely, the frictional force and the applied force in this direction kind of make up for that. So there's all these forces acting on this one moving object. Go ahead and finish that one up, and we're going to do one more example. So I said that they get more interesting, and in fact they do. So let's get a picture of, there we go. Let's get a picture of a refrigerator man, and we can just have a little ramp, a rectangle to represent the refrigerator, and a little stick guy. So he's pushing. The weight of the refrigerator is pushing. Notice it's pushing straight down, even though he's on a ramp. Gravity always pulls straight down, right? We have a frictional force pushing back, and we have a normal force pushing back up at the angle of the ramp. Notice it's not pushing straight up like the weight of the refrigerator. And same idea, we're going to represent that refrigerator with this little gray box. Here's our normal force, Here's our applied force. He's pushing, this is showing is pulling, that really doesn't matter. Here's our friction force, and here's our weight force. Okay, finish that one up, and then I have one more thing I'd like to talk to you about. Let me switch presentations real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, the last part I'd like to mention is this idea of what's called a pin and a roller. Usually when we draw beams, which we're going to be doing in here, they are resting on two different kinds of supports. One is called a pin, one is called a roller. Let's start with the definition. A pin is replaced with two reaction forces, one vertical and one horizontal. Go ahead and write your definition for pin, and you know what, I can't make this any shorter. We need this whole little picture here. And you start, I'm going to talk while you're writing this in your notebook. So point A here is basically resting on the support. R stands for reaction, A stands for point A, and Y stands for the Y direction. So this support is pushing back. The beam is pushing down, and the reaction force is pushing back up. Same goes for X direction, R, A, X. We're still at point A. It's pushing in the X direction. Think of this pin as like a part of the bridge where it's bolted into the ground and it cannot move. It's a pinned connection. Now, that is very different from a roller. Here's the representation for a roller, and I guess I didn't quite mention, but it was in your picture. Here's the representation for a pin connection. You'll see a little triangle, and we'll usually draw the free body diagram as two arrows. For your roller, it's usually represented with a little circle, and we will label it as one single X force. Let me pull up everything here. Okay, same routine. Let's get our definition. Roller replaced with one reaction force perpendicular to the surface, and same idea. This one happens to be at another point A, and that's why it's labeled RAY, reaction force at point A in the Y direction. Alright, when you finish that, we're going to do one more picture and kind of bring this all home. Here we go. Don't draw this one, let me just show you. This is something really common that we're going to start doing pretty soon in class. This is a truss, so it kind of looks like the side of a bridge. That's what a truss is. This could be a truss in the roof of a building. It could be a lot of things. Let's just call it a bridge. So at one end of the bridge, here's that pin connection I was telling you about. Here's that roller connection I was telling you about. But when we draw these, we replace them with, when we do a free body diagram, we replace them with the reaction forces. So I would like you to make a quick little sketch of this, and then right next to or below it, you're going to make the identical sketch, except for it's with the reaction forces, which I'll go to next. Yep, just like that. That's the only change. Just make two quick little sketches that won't take you long. And here's RAX and RAY. Let me talk you through one more thing. The reason we have these rollers, I can't talk about that until I talk about the pin. So the bridge, and follow me with my mouse, the bridge is pushing back this way, so the reaction force is pushing against it. The bridge is resting down on the support, so the support is pushing back. But over here, notice we don't have X reaction force. Here's why. If you've ever seen, notice that there's cracks in the road or on a sidewalk, those are expansion joints. So everything from concrete to steel expands when they get hot. So we have to plan for that expansion. That's why this roller is over here. When this gets hot on a hot summer day, if I had another pin connection over here, the bridge would have no choice but to twist or buckle, which wouldn't be good. So there's literally a roller here to allow this bridge to expand a little bit. You've probably noticed it if you've ever driven over a long bridge. The wheels on your tires, they go clunk, 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 clunk. Those are all the little expansion joints that you're passing over. Okay, that's it for our free body diagram video, and move on to your next assignment.